recognition. There are 3 methods. Do you need to know all 3 methods for the test? Yes. It will say specifically which method to use. So that's why we're learning all 3. Yesterday we did graphing. Today we're doing substitution. Right, ladies? Whoop. Whoa. Okay. So what is the point of intersection of these 2 lines? Solve by using the method of substitution. Alright, so choose a variable and isolate it. So I have an x right here, I have a y right here, I have a x right here, I have a y right here. Which variable do you think is the easiest to isolate? Yep. Sorry? X? Okay, Paul, do you agree?
I would isolate the 4x plus y is y.
Yeah, so Paul says, I think this one right here is easier to isolate. Why? Why, Paul?
The coefficient is 1.
Yeah, excellent. The coefficient here is 1. Coefficient is 1. So I would choose to isolate this y in this second equation. Is it wrong if I try to isolate the x in this equation? No, but the only problem you'll run into is you'll end up having a fraction, or you'll have to divide. So in this case, I'm going to choose to isolate this y in this equation. So when I isolate it, I get y equals negative 4x plus 1. I'm going to substitute it into the other equation. Alright, so if this is my equation 1, and this is my equation 2, I'm going to substitute that into here. So 2x minus 3, instead of the y right now, I'm going to substitute in negative 4x plus 1. Don't forget, whenever you substitute, you have to put it in brackets. Okay, so that's what I have right here. I replace the y with this equation because I isolated it. Okay. Don't forget the brackets because now you have to do the distributive property. So 2x plus 12x minus 3 equals negative 10. Okay. The 2x plus the 12x gives you 14x. The negative 3, you have to move it over to the other side. So it becomes plus. So you get negative 7. When you divide that 14, you get negative 1 over 2. Okay. We solved for x. Does that mean we're done? No, what's my second step then? My last step. Yep. Yeah, now I have to solve for y. Remember, it's an intersection point, so I need an x and a y value. So I need to sub in x equals a half. Find the other variables. I'm substituting the value you found from step number 3. Now, where should I sub in that negative a half? Should I sub it in here, here, or here? Which do you think is the smartest way? Where should I sub it into? Paul?
The one on the left.
The one on the left, this one? Alright, is there an even smarter one? Yep. Yeah. From your step 2, because you isolated already. So you don't have to re-isolate again. So sub it into here. It's already in y equals 4. Y equals negative 4. I'm going to replace it with a negative 1 over 2 plus 1. So y equal negative 4 times negative 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 plus 1, you get 3. And so what is my final answer? What is my POI? Yep.
Negative 1 by 2.
Perfect. Negative 1 and a half and comma 3. You found your x, you found your y, you were looking for a point of intersection, and there you go. Remember to write it as a coordinate form. Okay. Example 2. Find the solution to the linear system 2n plus 6n equals 8 and 4n plus 2n plus 4 equals 0 using the method of substitution. Okay, so okay. What's my first step? What's your first step? I want to hear your first step. Yep.
The first step that we did was take this thing 2n plus 6n equals 8. Isolate the n.
Okay.
And I have no fractions.
Okay. So, Ariane says isolate the m. Okay. Anybody else have other ideas? Okay, Paul?
You could also isolate the n from the right equation.
Okay, so Paul says isolate this one. Okay. Any other ideas? Yeah. But that's a method of elimination. So that's elimination, and we don't want that. We'll do that tomorrow. Okay. Anybody else? There is a smarter method. Yeah.
Sorry. You could just like isolate, just like move 6 to the other side and divide everything by what is that, 2?
Divide everything by
2.
2. Yeah, that's right. It's an equation. All equation, you can divide by something as long as you divide it on both sides. So in this case, 2n, 6n equals 8. What can I divide everything by? What's your greatest common factor between 2, 6, and 8? 2, yeah. I can divide this whole equation by 2. So I get m plus 3n equals 4. What about this right here? Can I do the same? Yeah, I can do the same. I can divide this whole equation by 2 as well. So this is 2n plus n plus 2 equals 0. So remember that as long as it's an equation and you divide everything on both sides, you can divide. It won't change anything. You just reduced your equation. Okay. So now now I can isolate the variable. Now I can take a look at these, because sometimes when you reduce it, you see more. Okay. So since Ariane said the m, let's do the m, because he raises up hand up first. So I isolated the m. I get m equals negative 3n plus 4. Now I'm going to substitute it into this equation. I'm going to put it in here. So 2, instead of the m, I'm going to put in negative 3n plus 4 in brackets. Brackets is very important. And then I'm going to write the rest out. Okay. Negative 6n plus 8 plus n plus 2 equals 0. So when you simplify, you get negative 5n plus 10 equals 0. Negative 5n equals negative 10 when I move it over. And when I divide negative 10 by negative 5, I get 2. Okay. Substitute this back into here, my step number 2. So m equal negative 3 bracket 2 plus 4. So m equals negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. So what is my POI in this case? Yeah, again?
Well, it doesn't matter which was x minus y, but
Yeah.
let's say negative 2.
Yeah, good. I wanted to point that out as well. So in this case, there wasn't an x and a y, so it's not wrong if you say 2, negative 2, rather than negative 2 and 2. In this case, if we write it like this, we're just assuming that m is the x and n is the dependent variable. Okay. Any question on example 2? Okay, I'll give you guys just a second to copy that down. I know I went a little fast on this example, so I'll just give you guys a second.
So if you have this question on a test, do you want to express it as a point, or do we just keep it as equals?
I still want you guys to express it as a point, but if you do 2, negative 2, I won't mark it wrong either. Because I never said n was the independent and n was the dependent. Yeah?
I would find this type of question on the test, maybe like the one that they didn't define too much.
If you want, you could define your variables and say let n be the independent variable and n be the dependent, but you don't have to. I'll just mark it right. Yeah?
The question just says to find the solution of this system. The solution implies finding the point of intersection.
Yeah, solution means the point of intersection. It's the same thing. Okay, example 3. So last example, quick lesson today. So really short. Okay. Who has a nice voice and can read this for us? Thank you, Kelly.
Is it example 3?
Yeah.
Alright. Ron makes 2 types of computers. To make the first type, he charges $35 for the material and $65 per hour for labor. For the second type, he charges $105 for the material and $25 per hour for labor. For what number of hours are the costs the same? Use the method of substitution.
Alright, so you'll definitely see these type of word problems on the test. So we're given 2 equations, 2 unknowns. First equation, the first scenario, I underlined it in red. Can somebody write the equation for me? Yep. Perfect, good. Okay, what about the second scenario in the highlighted? Henrio, I think your hand was up.
Y equals 25x plus 105.
Perfect. Okay. Originally, did you use x and y? The first equation, did you use x and y as well? Alright. Anybody else didn't use x and y in the first equation? Right. Usually people use c for cos and then like maybe h for hours. So some people's equation might be c equals 60, h plus 35. That's totally fine. It's your variables. I'm not so picky about like defining variables, but for good practice, especially when you get into grade 11, you do want to define your variables because right now I don't know what x and y are. So what is x? What does x represent? Yep. Hours worked or number of hours. And what is y? Yep. Total cost. Good. So when you write these equations, we're gonna get tons of word problems for this chapter. How many variables should you have in each word problem? Yeah. 2. Okay. If I wrote X and Y here, so because Elizabeth told me X and Y, and then Hambio says, I don't like X and Y, I want to use C and H. All right. You just introduced 4 different variables. If you have 4 variables, how many equations do you need to solve 4 variables? 4. If you have 3 variables, how many equations do you need to solve 3 variables? 3. Yeah, so that's how the math works. So you need at least that many number of equations in order to solve that many number of variables. All right. So method of substitution. I know that some of you are really smart and is thinking about elimination. All right. We don't want elimination. We don't want to eliminate the y's. That's tomorrow. Method of substitution. How do I use method of substitution here? Elizabeth? That's right. This is already isolated. Both of these are isolated, so I'm just going to do a straight substitution. So replace the y with this. So 60x plus 35 equal 25x plus 105. Okay, when you equate them, that's still substitution. Okay, now we can solve. Move this over to this side, move this over to this side. So 60x minus 25x, you get 35x. 105 minus 35, you get 70. So when you divide it, x equals 2. Okay. So now with that 2, does it matter which equation I substituted in? No. You can sub it into either or. So let's sub it into equation 1, for example. So sub x equals 2 into equation 1. So y equals 60 times 2 plus 35. So y equals 120, 155. Okay, so my point of intersection is at 2, 155. And what does that mean in the context of this question? Therefore, Paul?
The number of hours worked when the 2 has constant.
Okay, but remember what I said yesterday? I want you to include these 2 numbers in your therefore statement. So using these 2 numbers specifically. Elizabeth? Perfect. Ron needs to work 2 hours to for what number of hours are the costs the same? Use the method of substitution to make $155 to make the same amount. Sorry. I want to emphasize that it's the same amount to make the same amount. Is it 155 at both or either places. Alright, and your unit for that 155 is dollars. And actually, it's two types of comforters. So to make the same amount of 155 for both comforters. So it's not two different places. It's for both type of comforter. For both types of comforters. I could have probably worded it better, but you get the point. Okay, so most importantly, when I read your therefore statement, I need to see you use the point of intersection numbers in your therefore statement and units. What does that 2 represent? Hours. What does that 155% represent? Dollars. Costs. Okay, Ryan.
Yes. Sorry. So just to clarify, the question is not asked for the monetary amount. You still have to give it.
Sorry, say that again.
If the question isn't explicitly asked for the Y value, you still have to give it, right? It just asks for the number of hours.
Good point. I never got that. Yeah, I want to. On the test, you could say, but Miss, you never asked us for the cost, and you're right? Yes. So I will make sure I worded it properly on the test so that it does ask for both. Yeah. I do want you guys to solve for both. I just forgot to write it, but good catch. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on today's lesson? So remember, today's lesson is on substitution. So all the questions, I do want you guys to practice using the method of substitution. Okay. So these are the homework questions. I may do homework check tomorrow since I didn't do one today. Where can you find these questions?
Under content.
Bright space. Yes. Bright space. Content. What chapter are we on right now? Chapter 1. And we just did substitution right here. Okay. Yesterday's homework, I separated into 2 files, but today's, you can see, you have to scroll down. So first 2 pages was the handout, and then page 3 is the actual homework, the questions, the word problems, more word problem, challenge questions. So these ones are at the end, chapter problems. These ones are the extension problems. So if you want to challenge yourself, you can try some of those. And what are the last 2 pages? What are these? What is page 6 and 7? Answers. That's right. All right. So don't try to do these questions. These are answers. All right, so check your answers, make sure you're doing them correctly. All right, sounds good? Plenty of time, like a good 40 minutes. You have 40 minutes to finish everything and have no homework. Okay, I know that some of you are working ahead. That's awesome, that's great. Challenge yourself with some of these chapter problems. All right?